My grandson, David, experienced his first winter this year. The weather report mentioned that it was a record cold day. I couldn't help but worry about David and his mother, Yvonne. I hope they haven't fallen ill due to the cold. That night, I sent a message to Yvonne on my smartphone, asking, "Are you and the baby okay? Not catching a cold?" However, despite sending it 2 or 3 times, there was no reply, not even a read receipt. She's always been so responsible, I hope she's not overdoing it. After waiting another hour, I tried calling but to no avail. This is no small matter. Worried something serious had happened, I quickly put on my thick jumper and rushed out to drive to my son's family apartment. There was no response when I rang the intercom, and fearing the worst, that Yvonne had collapsed inside, I had the building manager open the door. The apartment was dark, with only the faint light from the street lamps seeping in. Groping along the wall, I searched for the light switch, relying on my memory. I fumbled for the light switch, but, even after trying several times, the lights wouldn't turn on. What's going on here? I thought, feeling a mix of anxiety and irritation. With no other option, I used my smartphone's flashlight to look around. Yvonne? Are you there? Could it be that they are just out? Just as I was about to leave, I thought I heard a baby's cry from the bedroom. Yvonne? Are you there? I quickly headed to the bedroom. Yvonne! There, I found Yvonne, shivering from the cold but desperately wrapping newborn David in a sheet to keep him warm. What happened? To my shock, Yvonne's once long and proud black hair was now chopped off, almost completely shaved. This is terrible! What happened here? My name is Mary Smith, I'm 61 years old. I've worked as a hairstylist for many years, running a salon out of my home. Chatting casually with my regulars during their appointments has always been the highlight of my day. The salon was originally started by my husband and me. However, he passed away from cancer when he was young. Not long after our son, Harry, was born. Despite the challenges, I raised Harry single-handedly. But Harry didn't make it easy. He often skipped school and got into trouble when he did attend. After graduating high school, he didn't continue his education and instead spent his days hanging out in town. I often wondered if it was a sense of inferiority from not having a father around. Or maybe it's because I wasn't a good enough mother. I always worried about Harry's future, never finding an answer. So, when Harry suddenly said one day, "I want to be a hairstylist," I was so surprised I pinched my cheek, thinking I was dreaming. What's gotten into you? Hairstylists are popular with the ladies, right? Harry replied with a smirk. Guess kids do grow up watching their parents, huh? Regardless of the reason, I decided to take a positive view of my son showing interest in his future for the first time. Harry successfully graduated from cosmetology school and started working as an apprentice at a senior's salon. That's where he met Yvonne, who would later become his wife. Harry was smitten with her at first sight and, after a strong pursuit, announced to me with a confident smile, "I've decided to marry this girl," introducing me to Yvonne. Nice to meet you. I'm Yvonne. You are a hairstylist too, right? I look forward to learning from you. Yvonne, with her long black hair and bright smile, was a wonderful woman. Likewise, I look forward to that, I replied, instantly liking her. A year after their marriage, Harry expressed his desire to start his own salon. Though he hadn't been an apprentice for long, he seemed to have gained a lot of confidence as a hairstylist. I want to have my own place and prove my skills. Honestly, I was a bit worried. I knew from my experience that it's not easy for a newcomer to make it on their own in this industry. But I couldn't ignore the earnest look in Harry's eyes as he talked about his dream. How much do you have saved up? He showed me his bank book with a troubled look and a sigh. Despite having a steady income, he was spending just as much as he earned. With this pattern, he was far from having enough to start his own business. Harry had been squandering most of his earnings on leisure. Perhaps I should have advised him to give up then. But I smiled and said, "Don't worry about the money," indulging his whim. Maybe it was my way of making up for the loneliness of growing up without a father. Truth be told, I hadn't touched the life insurance money left by my late husband. It's for Harry. You'd forgive me, right? I whispered to my husband's portrait. One of my regulars was knowledgeable in real estate, so I consulted with her. That place would be perfect. It was a property that had been used as a barbershop until half a year ago, but the owner had retired due to old age. The location wasn't bad, and she thought it might be just right for Harry's new start. During the renovation, one of my regulars said, "Use my husband, he just lazes around the house on his days off anyway." Another chimed in, "My son's studying architecture in college and is home for the summer break. He can help out too, get some hands-on experience." Thanks to their help, the construction went smoothly. Once we got the health department's approval, the salon opened in no time. I never imagined I could set up my own business so quickly. You should thank everyone. It's not something you could have done alone. I know. I'm grateful to you, Mom. Then, I handed Harry the bank book containing the remainder of his father's inheritance. The purchase and renovation costs were lower than expected, so there was still more than half left. This is a gift from your father to you. Use it wisely for business expenses, and don't you dare waste it. Yeah. I'm not a kid, I get it. Harry said, chuckling in annoyance. Don't worry. I'll keep a close eye on Harry to make sure he doesn't spend the money foolishly. Yvonne said with a bright smile. Her words made me laugh. With Yvonne's help, I didn't need to worry about interfering any further. I optimistically decided to watch over their business from a distance. But soon, I realized my optimism was misplaced. Yvonne occasionally visited my salon to update me on their progress, and each time, her expression grew more somber. 3 months after Harry's salon opened, she confided. Harry's not putting his heart into the work. What? Harry? Why? He was so enthusiastic at first, sure that his skills would bring in customers. But within a month, he stopped smiling and began treating customers coldly. As a result, our reputation has plummeted, and customers have stopped coming. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Harry had wanted his own salon so badly. What had changed in such a short time? Harry thought that being a good hairstylist was all it took, but running a salon is more than that. Yvonne sighed. Indeed, she was right. Business doesn't work just the quality of your work. Customer service plays a huge role in business. It seemed Harry was missing that fundamental understanding. So, what's Harry doing now? He's frustrated about the lack of customers and spends his days drinking. If he doesn't get his act together, we'll lose even more clients. Right now, I'm handling the customers we do have, but if our reputation keeps dropping, the business will only get worse. Yvonne explained, looking like she was on the verge of tears. I felt the same way. All right, I'll have a serious talk with him next time I see him. Thank you so much, Yvonne said, bowing deeply before brushing back her long black hair. Your hair is always so stunning, I commented, trying to lighten the mood. I started growing it out in middle school, she said proudly. Been that long? Any particular reason? Are you familiar with hair donation? Yvonne looked at me earnestly. Hair donation? I think I heard about it at a hairstylist's meeting, but I don't know much about it. Yvonne's eyes sparkled as she explained. It's about making wigs from real hair for children who've lost their hair due to congenital diseases, illness, or accidents. I've been growing my hair to donate to organizations involved in this. Isn't it wonderful to be able to help someone? I read an article about an actress who was doing it, and I thought, maybe I could do that too. Wow. That's really admirable, especially for someone as young as you, I said, overwhelmed by Yvonne's passion. 6 months into her marriage with Harry, Yvonne got pregnant. She's always been so conscientious, always pushing herself too hard when I'm not looking. Yvonne, this is the most crucial time. You really shouldn't overdo it, I repeatedly warned her. Every time, she'd just lightly laugh and say, "Don't worry. I'm taking it easy, consulting with the baby in my belly." But in reality, Yvonne worked at the salon right up until the last month of her pregnancy, supporting the family while Harry's attitude worsened. What is he even thinking? Every time Yvonne updated me, I felt my own shortcomings as a mother. One day, I finished work early and decided to check on their salon. I ran into Harry just as he was about to leave. "Where are you going?" "Out for a drink." "There won't be any more customers today anyway," he said nonchalantly, laughing off his situation. The lack of customers had become normal for Harry, and he wasn't even trying to improve things anymore. "You're about to become a father, you know." Harry just waved his hand dismissively and hopped on his motorcycle. "We're not done talking. Think about Yvonne for once." Yeah. I'll do that when I feel like it." He laughed and sped off. Inside the salon, Yvonne was cleaning the floor. "Today, we managed to get just one customer," she said, smiling brightly despite looking exhausted. "Are you eating properly? You need to get enough nutrition." "Don't worry about me. It's not just about you. It's for the baby," I said sternly, making sure she understood the gravity of the situation. Yvonne teared up a bit and thanked me. At times like this, the father should be there to support her. I wanted to shout at Harry, who was nowhere to be found. Yvonne told me the salon wasn't doing well, and Harry was spending money recklessly every night. Giving that bank book to Harry was a mistake. I regretted my decision. Yvonne, despite being busy, never neglected her hair care. Gently stroking her belly, she said, "I want to teach my child the joy of helping others." That's when I realized I wanted to support her. Since my son wasn't of much help, I decided to assist Yvonne at their apartment. "I'm always sorry to trouble you." "Don't worry about it, just focus on the baby." It was my fault for not raising my son right. Because of that, Yvonne was suffering. Perhaps it was my way of atoning for my sins, at least. At the end of summer, Yvonne went into labor earlier than expected and was rushed to the hospital. Harry was nowhere to be found, unreachable. I kept sending him messages, but there were no replies, not even read receipts. What on earth is he doing at a time like this? Yvonne's parents had passed away, so I was the only one who could be there for her. "Don't worry, Yvonne, I'm here." I kept encouraging her as she bravely faced childbirth. After a long and difficult labor, I was overwhelmed by the sound of the baby's cries. "He's born. You did it, Yvonne." I was moved to tears, but Harry, who should have been there, never showed up. My grandson, David, was experiencing his first winter. The weather report said it was a record cold day. No wonder it was so chilly that I had trouble getting out of bed. My first thoughts were of Yvonne and newborn David. I hoped they weren't affected by the cold. Worried, I sent a message to Yvonne that night. "Are you and the baby okay? Haven't caught a cold?" But even after sending 2 or 3 messages, there was no response, not even a read receipt. I was concerned that Yvonne might be too ill to move. She's always been so responsible. I hope she's not overdoing it. After waiting another hour, I tried calling again, but the result was the same. Something's not right. Without a second thought, I put on my thick jumper and rushed out to their apartment. When I arrived, the place was engulfed in darkness. It's not uncommon for families to travel abroad during the holidays, but I hadn't heard anything about a trip from Yvonne and Harry, and they likely couldn't afford it anyway. I rang the intercom, but there was no response. Fearing Yvonne might have collapsed, I immediately asked the building manager to open the door. "I'll wait outside. Please let me know if there's anything," I told the manager before stepping inside. The apartment was dark, the only light coming from the street lamps outside. I remembered the light switch was right by the entrance. Relying on my memory, I groped for the light switch on the wall. But no matter how many times I flipped it on and off, the lights didn't respond at all. What's going on here? I thought, feeling a mixture of anxiety and irritation. With no other option, I used my smartphone's flashlight to illuminate the room as I stepped inside. "Yvonne, are you here?" I called out in the living room, but there was no answer. Maybe they had just gone out. Just as I was about to leave, I thought I heard a faint cry of a baby from the bedroom. "Yvonne? Are you in there?" I quickly headed toward the sound. "Yvonne!" There was Yvonne, shivering from the cold, desperately wrapping newborn David in a sheet to keep him warm. "What happened here?" When I shone the light on her, I was shocked to see that her once long, proud black hair had been roughly cut off, almost to the scalp. Her eyes, red and swollen from crying, looked at me helplessly. "This is terrible. How did this happen?" I took off my jumper and draped it over Yvonne. "It's okay now. Just tell me what happened, as much as you can." Yvonne began to speak slowly. She said that Harry had continued his daily escapades even after David was born. Eventually, they couldn't pay the electric bill anymore, and Yvonne, unable to tolerate it any longer, scolded Harry. She had just wanted him to be more responsible as a father. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. In a fit of rage, Harry grabbed a pair of practice hair-cutting scissors and started cutting off Yvonne's hair. At first, Yvonne tried to resist, saying stop it. But fearing any further resistance might accidentally harm David, she stopped resisting. Harry laughed mockingly, saying, "Now you won't be able to show your face in public." I was speechless at my son's cruel actions. "Why didn't you tell me it had gotten this bad?" "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." Yvonne apologized, blaming herself again. "No, Yvonne, it's not your fault. You're not the one to blame here. It's Harry. You did nothing wrong." I knew Yvonne hadn't confided in me because she didn't want to worry me. I hugged her tightly, tears streaming down my face. The whole situation was a result of my overindulgence in raising Harry. My heart burned with shame and anger at my own failings and my son's inability to empathize with others. Taking a deep breath, I called Harry. "Hey, Mom. Long time no talk. What's up, calling all of a sudden?" "Just wanted to hear your voice. How's everything over there? Are Yvonne and David doing okay?" "Of course, everyone's fine and doing well. I've been calling home, but no one's picking up." "Where are you now?" There was a brief pause in his voice, as if he was concocting an excuse. "Actually, we're a family of 3 in Hawaii. We'll be back next week." "Hawaii, huh? That sounds nice." I responded, though I knew he was blatantly lying to me. What had I been doing all these years, taking care of Harry? After losing my husband at a young age, I worked non-stop as a hairstylist. It was all to raise Harry into a respectable person. When he expressed a desire to become an independent hairstylist, I fulfilled his wish without hesitation. Yet, Harry carelessly squandered the inheritance his father left, using it for his own pleasures. And even treating his wife and child cruelly. My expectations for Harry turned into profound disappointment. "What would you like as a souvenir? I'll bring you something nice." "Anything's fine. You're coming back next week, right? Safe and sound." "Hey, Mom? You sound a bit off. Is something wrong? Mom?" Harry seemed to sense something, but I ended the call without responding. I informed the building manager waiting outside of my plans and decided to take Yvonne and David back to my house. Then, I started making calls to every place I could think of. A week later, Harry called me, cheerfully announcing that he had just landed at the airport. "I'm back, Mom. And I've got souvenirs for you," he said, pretending to be the caring son. But my heart was no longer deceived by his act. "That's nice to hear," I replied in a flat tone, though Harry didn't seem to notice anything unusual. About an hour later, a taxi pulled up in front of the apartment. Harry, clearly having enjoyed his solo trip to Hawaii, with distinct tan lines from sunglasses around his eyes, unloaded a bunch of luggage from the trunk. He took out his keys, expecting to enter the apartment where his wife and son should be waiting. He must have thought that once he inserted and turned the key, the door would open immediately. However, no matter how many times he tried, the key wouldn't fit the lock.
"What's going on here?"
he exclaimed in frustration. I approached him quietly from behind and asked with a smile, "Did you enjoy your trip to Hawaii?" though my heart was boiling with anger.
"Mom, you're here?"
Harry said, relieved to see me, misunderstanding the situation. "Listen, Mom. I just got back and tried to enter the house, but the key won't fit. It must be Yvonne's prank, punishing me for going on a trip alone." He tried to paint himself as the victim, blaming Yvonne. Leaving Yvonne, who just gave birth, and newborn David behind. What were you doing? I told you, I was in Hawaii with my family. Didn't you just say you went on the trip alone? I pointed out the contradiction. Harry was at a loss for words. You really had the nerve to lie about taking a family trip to Hawaii? Yvonne was here, with the electricity cut off, shivering in the cold, holding David close to protect him. And to think, she cherished her long hair, and you just cut it off mercilessly. Don't you feel any remorse as a human being? I guess I messed up there. But right now, I just want to get inside the house. It's freezing in Japan. Harry replied, rubbing his arms theatrically, showing no sign of remorse. The cold Yvonne and David endured is nothing compared to this. Plus, you no longer have a home here. I've already canceled the lease on the apartment. It's time you find your own place to live.
Canceled the lease? Why would you do something like that without asking me?
Harry protested, suddenly panicking. But the apartment was leased under my name, after all. I couldn't just stand outside and continue this conversation, so I took Harry to a nearby coffee shop to talk further. Harry sipped his coffee silently, probably not even tasting it. He kept glancing between me and his coffee with a pale face.
You were so strapped for cash that you couldn't pay the electric bill, yet you managed to go to Hawaii?
That's... Harry grimaced and finally began to spill his selfish reasoning. He admitted that right from the start of his business, he was showing off to friends and women he picked up at the salon, spending his father's inheritance on his antics. He knew such spending would quickly deplete any fortune. But after getting a taste of the power of money, he continued his lavish lifestyle even after the inheritance ran out, racking up debts to buy gifts and take trips. You're quite the big spender, aren't you? Especially for a failing business. Don't worry. I'm a professional hairstylist. Once I get serious, clients will come flooding in, and I'll be able to support my family. Harry replied with unfounded confidence. I looked at him coldly. Your salon? I've already sold it. All the equipment too. It's too late to get anything back. I shattered his baseless confidence.
That's a lie. Why would you do something like that?
Harry's face turned red as he slammed his hand on the table.
Oh? You were planning to continue with the salon? I thought you had abandoned it since you left everything to Yvonne. Besides, I bought the building and land in my name.
You have no right to complain now.
But I was just trying to attract customers. I had it all planned out.
Harry's eyes looked like those of a child about to burst into tears. If you're so confident in your skills, you should be able to start over from scratch. I said coldly, then left the coffee shop after placing money for the coffee on the table. A month passed. Yvonne and I avoided any contact with Harry, but unpleasant rumors inevitably reached my ears. After I pushed him away, Harry apparently ran to his friends begging for money. But they were the kind who gathered around him for his money. Naturally, nobody was willing to help a financially drained Harry. He even got reported to the police for stalking some of the women he picked up at his salon. Although he only received a stern warning from the police, the lack of support from his acquaintances hit him hard, and he completely disappeared from our lives. He's probably living alone now, in fear of harsh debt collectors. All this is the consequence of his own actions. My anger towards Harry isn't just about his reckless spending. What's unforgivable is how he neglected Yvonne and David, pushing them into hardship. And above all, cutting off Yvonne's long hair, which she had grown out for years for a noble cause, thereby potentially robbing unknown children of a brighter future. As a fellow hairstylist, I could never forgive Harry's actions. It will take a long time for Harry to truly understand the emotional pain Yvonne has endured. Yvonne herself never speaks of her hurt, but it's clear she's not unscathed. She appears to be keeping her feelings bottled up, probably not wanting to worry me. Wanting to do something to help, I reached out to my hairstylist friends and had a special wig made for Yvonne.
It won't make up for my son's wrongs, but please use this.
Thank you, Mom, Yvonne said with a smile, though tears were streaming down her cheeks. Using my aching back as an excuse, I asked Yvonne to help out at the salon. She threw herself into the work, seemingly trying to forget her emotional scars.
Hello, David.
A regular greeted, and David in his cradle burst into giggles. Now, some customers even come to the salon just to see him. He's like a little mascot, a baby that brings in good fortune. Yvonne, regaining her strength both physically and emotionally, has started the process of divorcing Harry.
Seeing Yvonne smile makes us all feel like we've shed 20 years.
But it's true, Yvonne and David have brightened up the salon considerably. Attracted by Yvonne's cheerful atmosphere, more and more mothers with young children have become regulars.
Let's have a great day today. Hi, how are you? Now, the salon is filled with smiles again. In a quiet corner, David is peacefully sleeping, his cute little snores filling the air.